What's up, everyone? All right, today we are hanging out. I am in the mood to just sit and chat with my friends. Your internet bestie is here to just chat with you. So cheers. So I do these coffee chats monthly if you are new here, and usually I get ready for the day as well. So that's what we're gonna be doing. I've got some makeup I'm just gonna be throwing on. Apologies if you can hear landscaping going on. That's my fault. I should have filmed earlier. And I knew I should have, and I didn't. So this is on me, you know? But I always ask you guys over on my Instagram, which is at It's Jessica Braun, if you guys have any questions, but I also have lots of stuff I just feel like talking about. So one of the questions I got was, Jessica, how much coffee do you drink? And I feel like I talked about this in a recent video too, but to touch on it again, I got a few DMs that were so sweet. They were like, Jessica, I'm really concerned about the amount of caffeine you're drinking. I only drink 2 cups a day. I guess it appears that I drink more because I like talk about it too much, but like this is my 2nd cup of the day and it's like 1 p.m.-ish, something like that. So that's pretty much it. Every once in a while I'll do like a half calf for like a 3rd cup or a decaf if I'm just feeling like it, or I'll do like an iced coffee or espresso, but generally 2 cups a day is pretty much where I hit. And it's funny, it's not really me holding back, it's kind of just where my body seems to just react the best to 2 cups of coffee. At least 1. I mean, it is an addiction after all. My sister recently gave up caffeine and I do not know how she did it. I was like, girl, you are superwoman. So I wanted to try the Elta MD UV Restore. So I have the Elta MD UV Element. There are different versions. You can see the name there. I've never tried this one. So to kind of compare, because dude, Elta MD sells so many different versions of these things. And so it's kind of overwhelming to like pick one. So this is the UV Elements one where it's kind of got a tint to it. That's what I've been using and loving for a long time. This one is the other one. But I've heard this is really great. I mean, generally this brand is recommended by dermatologists across the board. So I feel like anyone you pick, you're probably good with. But because I had some dermatitis, which by the way, I think has cleared up, and the dryness I was having from that, and by starting using retinol, probably shouldn't have done it at the same time, but we're beyond it now. And the reason I say that is it feels like it's cleared up. But this was one that was recommended to those that do have dermatitis from time to time. So it's the UV Restore SPF 40. But one thing that can sometimes cause dermatitis is sunscreen, SPF. And so I wanted to make sure whatever one I'm using is going to be good as I move forward, and hopefully don't get another flare up. I guess we'll see. Also switched up the toothpaste I'm using. There's a lot of things you can try if you are someone dealing with that. So it definitely is like a white cast type. I mean, you know, so I feel like if I were to be going out to the pool, for example, and I were putting on a facial sunscreen, this probably wouldn't be one I would reach for. I mean, it would work, maybe I would, but that's why I like tinted ones, because it doesn't look like this, but we're putting makeup on top. So I think as a general sunscreen for that reason, that it doesn't matter because it's going to get covered, but it definitely, I mean, there's no doubt that there is a white cast there. Ooh, and I'm just now seeing my UV Elements, my old one, expires this month. So I knew it was expiring really soon, so I was trying to use it up. So I'll probably try to use it the next week or 2, and then it probably will be gone. Okay, enough about the makeup. Hey, we're here to chat about other stuff. So some updates in our own life before I get to like questions and stuff like that. I did not grab a foundation. I feel very scatterbrained. Hold on. Are you still with me? So, some updates. We are officially done. We have moved out completely of our workspace. If you saw my recent vlogs, I know I've talked about it a lot. We had some drama. So we have never used movers. Have you guys? I have heard that there is no such thing as a moving company that is flawless. Like, we know that. We're all humans. There are mistakes made, things that go wrong, things that break, things that get lost. But as a general rule, like when you're reading reviews for like moving companies, you know, you're going to have some good reviews, you're going to have some bad ones. So the company we used had really good reviews, like a lot of really good reviews. So I'm like, okay, perfect. Like I felt really confident in our choice. And so we were, since this is a business expense, I was like, let's have them pack it all. Like, I think if it were us moving our home, I think I would have wanted to pack it. I don't know. But either way, it was one of those things that thinking about the time it would take versus the work we needed to do, like it made more fiscal sense for us to just pay them to pack it. My point in saying that is, it was expensive, right? Like moving itself is expensive, but having them pack it for you, oh my gosh. So we take care of it all. And how deep do I want to go into this story? Because there's so many facets to it. They have us pay for the move and the packing and everything the day before. I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, you know, it is what it is. So I did that. And when we were first getting all of this figured out with the movers and scheduling it, I had to do an inventory for them. So basically sharing like, okay, how many couches do you have? How many of this? How many of that? And then since they were packing, you know, guesstimate how many boxes you may need. Large, medium, small, how many? So I asked the contact I had with the company, I was like, okay, I have no idea how many I'm gonna need. I don't know how big a small, medium, and large box is. I was like, am I just giving you my best guesstimation? He was like, yes, that's fine. And he said, the reality is when they're packing it and they move it, we are only gonna charge you for the amount of boxes they packed. So it could be less, could be more, you know, depending. So we pay for it the day before. That's important. A certain amount, right? Well, Tyler goes in on Monday morning and they get there, Tyler lets him in. They kind of do a walkthrough at the beginning and Tyler's like, yeah. And they would ask about a few things like, do you want me to move that? And he's like, no, that's more sentimental. We'll move it, that kind of thing. And they reminded Tyler like, okay, cleaning supplies we're not gonna move, those kinds of things. We already knew that there were gonna be things left behind that we would take care of. No big deal. Well, Tyler, at the end of the day, they were like, all right, well, we're done. We've already moved it out because they're moving it to storage for us because our next workspace won't be ready for a few months. Long story, moving beyond that. So they were taking it to their storage facility. So, by the way, I was using the House Labs Triclone Foundation. I still really like this a lot. It's just so easy to use. It's just so easy to use. 100 light neutral is my shade. So the details in this story I feel like are pretty important. So at the end of the day, the movers call Tyler and say, hey, we're all done. You know, tips are appreciated. And he's like, oh, no problem. He had intended to tip them. So he said, all right, I'll come up to the unit and, you know, I'll meet you there. And they're like, oh, well, we're already down on the truck, like on the street. You can just meet us at the truck. And Tyler doesn't think much of it. He's like, all right. So he goes, he thanks them. He signs a paper, you know, saying, I guess that the job was done, and then tips them. They go on their merry little way. So the next day, Tyler goes in, because I don't know how much he looked at the unit before he came home for the day, but the next morning he goes in knowing there were some things he needed to pack up, like cleaning supplies and stuff they couldn't move. And he's like, Jessica, oh my gosh, they didn't pack anything in either bathroom. I'm talking not like cleaning supplies. We're talking towels. We had some kids' toys in there, like in the bathtub. Just random things. Didn't touch anything in the bathrooms. Didn't touch anything in the like coat closet. They left a lot of things behind in the laundry area. So Tyler's like, well, I'm just gonna get it all out of here because we need to be out of the unit and leave them the key. So I'm gonna get it all out of here. I'll get it home. He gets it home, you guys. It filled up so much of our garage. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, you just did their job for them. Like that was so much they missed. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, we accidentally missed that closet. That would be understandable. It was a lot, you guys. One thing you should know about Tyler and I is we are total pushovers. We're the ones that will just swallow it and not say anything because we're people pleasers. And as we've gotten older, we've definitely shed a lot of that, and I'm really glad. So this was one of those cases that I'm getting more and more upset the more I'm thinking about this. And then I start thinking, and I'm like, wait a minute. The amount that we paid them, we paid before. So is this based on how many boxes they moved, or did they just happen to move exactly 30 boxes, which is what I guessed? So finally, I email the contact I have with this company, and I'm like, okay, here's what happened. I was pretty friendly, very professional. I was like, you know, I understand mistakes happen, but this is what's going on. We need you guys to get this stuff packed up so that it can go with its brothers and sisters boxes in the storage unit, because we didn't want to store it for the next like 4 or 5 months in our garage. It would take up an entire half of our garage. I go back and forth with the GM, and first of all, how do I say this? He definitely mansplained to me, and I don't even like the term mansplaining because I feel like it's misused, but he was definitely talking down to me as though there was no way in the world I could possibly understand the ins and outs and logistics of what they did. And it was just very demeaning. And I'm not someone that reads too far into things. It was a little bit demeaning. So then I'm getting a little more upset. Bottom line is, there was a job to be done. We paid them a certain amount. The job was not complete. They just needed to complete the job. That's all I asked. I said, you know, either I I think we deserve a discount in the packing services because there was a ton. I mean, it took Tyler the better part of an entire workday to do this. So he couldn't work. He was doing this, doing their job. The manager like, I understand, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, how about this? They only used 25 of the boxes, of the 30 boxes. So, we have 5 more boxes you guys could use. And I said, no, well, hold on. Didn't we already pay for like 30 boxes being packed and we were already charged for it and you guys were ready to be done and we were moving on until I brought this up? And he's like, well, yeah, I didn't realize that they hadn't. And I said, were they supposed to do a final walkthrough with my husband or with one of us? He just happened to be the one there. And he said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, that didn't happen. There was the beginning walkthrough, but there was no final walkthrough. He said, well, my guy said that they walked through the unit at the end with your husband and he signed at the top of the paper. And so I'm talking to Tyler and Tyler's like, I did sign the paper, but we were down on the street. Like at no point was I in the unit with them again, other than just at the beginning when we did the early walkthrough, the first walkthrough. So I'm just kind of letting this sink in for him that, they made a mistake. It's no big deal. Mistakes happen, whatever. Point is, he was like, well, we're willing to come pick up the stuff, blah, 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 and pack up the 5 boxes for you, and we can just call it square. I'm like, great, perfect. That is exactly what I was hoping. I don't need money back. Just finish the job. Please just finish the job. And so they are. It was all good. Moving forward in the story to today. Today, they were going to come in the morning, and they were going to pack it up with the boxes they had. And he had asked on the phone, he was like, do you think everything that was left would fit in 5 boxes? And I'm thinking, I don't know how big the boxes are. And I'm like, I think, he's like, all right, well then that's perfect. It can just be an even trade. I'm like, all right, whatever. They get there, they pack it all up. Tyler was here, I wasn't. Poor Tyler's had to deal with like all this, but I'm dealing with like the back end phone stuff. So I don't know which is worse. So Tyler's there, he's dealing with it. And they were super friendly. They got the job done in like 15 minutes. And we have proof that it took 15 minutes for them to pack all of it up in boxes and they were out of there. And so that was great. We were all done. So I am at the nail salon getting my nails done this morning and I get a phone call from them like 2 times in a row. I'm like, all right. So I'm picking it up and the mover, which is one of the ones that was here packing today from our garage, was like, hey, just so you know, your new total, it went up a couple $100. And I said, I'm sorry, for what? And he was like, for moving, instead of 5 boxes, it took us 11. So it'll be a couple $100 more. And I'm literally like, my nails are wet. I'm trying to, and so I said, can I call you guys back later? I'm right in the middle of something. He's like, all right. So I call, or no, before I can even call, I get home, I'm talking to Tyler, I'm making sure like, did you see 11 boxes? And he goes through the security footage and he's like, yeah, it was that many boxes. I know Tyler just got home. I'm prepared to call the GM again and be like, hey, I'm aware that it took more boxes. I'm not paying any more money. You guys are, if this had happened at the very beginning on Monday when all of this was first being moved and you guys needed 5 more boxes, I would have paid it no question because I understand that that's the deal, right? They do it on a per item basis. I get it. But because you guys were fixing one of your own mistakes, the idea of you nickel and diming me here at this point, absolutely not. And so I was upset. And I know that's not a perfect solution. Like in theory, yes, I should have to pay them. But also in theory, Tyler lost an entire workday. They didn't complete the job correctly. I had been pretty darn friendly up to this point. So I was mad and I was ready to call. And literally minutes before I was going to go in the other room and call, he called me and right off the bat, my shoulders are like here because I'm not used to being mean. And he instantly said, hey, I know it ended up taking more boxes, but I'm not going to make you guys pay that. I'm not going to ask you guys to pay that. And I'm like, thank you, big man. Awesome. And then we talked through some other things. So all was good. And I did thank him at the end. I was like, thank you for making it right. Like mistakes happen. We're all human. But I really appreciate that you guys did the right thing and got this done properly. So all of our things are together in the storage unit. All is good. Our garage is clear again, but it was such a saga. It's funny. One of the questions I got a couple times today on my stories from you guys was, what are some life lessons you feel like you've learned this year? And that is a big one. Actually standing your ground when you know something isn't right. And that can look a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? But I just feel like it's easy when you're a people pleaser like me to just roll over and be like, well, they did most of the job. It was pretty good. It's like, no, they were close, but not quite. So I'm so proud of myself for standing up for knowing, like, no, we paid a lot of money. We deserve to have the job done correctly. And it doesn't mean you have to be mean about it, but just knowing like, no, you deserve to have things done right. It's kind of like Pam Beasley in the office at one point, she like goes up to a bar and orders 2 drinks, and they give her the wrong one, and she sees it, notices it, and she's like walking away like whatever. And then you see a moment where she realized like, no, I'm going to stand up for myself. So she goes, so sorry, this is actually, I ordered this, not this. And they're like, oh, okay. I think about that a weird amount because I think there's a lot of power to that realization as you're growing up. And I feel like we kind of all hit that in different times in our life. Like for me, it hit in my 30s. For some, it hits when they're 18 or in their 20s or in their 50s and 60s. I don't know. I'm glad it hit when it did because it has been a really powerful thing this past month. There have been a couple other instances where I've stood my ground when things were, bothering me, where I would complain to Tyler about it, like work stuff, but I wouldn't actually do anything about it. And I'm like, Jessica, things don't change unless you try. You know what I mean? Things don't change unless you try. And so I'm just proud of my little Jessie's growing up. I know that the Jessie age 21 would be so proud of Jessie age 34. So that's the tea, that's the drama. All is well, thank goodness. But man, it was interesting. Someone asked, I'd posted on the story a picture of my peanut butter and jelly that I absolutely smashed earlier. It was so good. And they asked, strawberry or grape jelly in that PBJ? Okay, so my perfect peanut butter and jelly is on delicious, like white bread, the kind that gets stuck to the roof of your mouth, and then crunchy peanut butter. And then honestly, any kind of jelly. I used to be a grape jelly girl. Now I lean into strawberry. I think the one I used, it was from that Bon Maman brand. And I think it was like mixed berry. So, but I've also realized my ratio, it has to be a very thin layer of jelly and a thicker layer of peanut butter. That's the ratio for me. And when I don't do it right, I'm like, oh, it's just not right. Anyway, man, I feel like peanut butter and jellies are one of those things that like when you hear someone else talk about it, you have to have one. You're like, I'm going to go home and make one. Like I need to eat a peanut butter and jelly. I wonder how many of you guys, after seeing my post about one, ended up going home and eating one. Another question I got was, what's some advice I have for people like in their 20s or maybe people just entering their 30s? 2 things. The thing I said earlier, stand your ground when you know you're right. But then also, don't take everything so seriously. I think it's so easy, especially with things like jobs and money. It is serious business, you know what I mean? You need to make money to be able to have a place to live, food to eat. But knowing when certain things just aren't so serious, you know what I mean? Because there will come a day when way more serious things happen in your life that deserve that level of energy you're putting into it. But just being able to step back and realize like, okay, this problem I'm going to complain about to my spouse or my friends, but it's really not as big of a deal as I'm making it. Because then that leaves space and energy for when you do have those things in life that come your way that are a way bigger deal. And I know that sounds weird, but I just feel like when you can take a breath and realize this is not that serious, life's just a little bit more fun. You know what I mean? Letting things roll down your back. I know it's easier said than done, but I was gonna say it is what it is, but that's basically the same thing. Especially worrying about something you really can't change. I think that's something that we're all guilty of when there's something in your life that's bothering you, whether it's a person, maybe a family member, maybe just a circumstance in your life that's driving you nuts, but there isn't anything you can do about it. You got to put your shoulders down and let it go. Because if you worrying about it's not changing anything and there's nothing you can actively do, it's just kind of one of those things, Can we be best friends? Yes, girl. Yes, we can. It is funny. I feel like obviously we're all living in the same era right now, but we're all different ages. And one thing that's kind of cool about what has happened with, the internet and people posting things online is that you do get to know people on a pretty darn personal basis. I mean, a lot of you guys know me better than people in my own life know me. Obviously, I'm in charge of how much I share online, and there have been certain ways where we've definitely pulled back. One thing that I've done, like a boundary I've drawn in my life that's been healthier, is not posting everything. Like, especially on the weekend or in the evening when it's family time, if I don't need to be filming or posting, I am not. And keeping so much of that kind of time to myself and not for everyone has been so healthy, because then I feel like I have control over that piece of it. I was reading this article, it was a New York Times article, and it was absolutely fascinating about this influencer. I think she was more in like the fitness space that had amassed a pretty big following, and she was making a living doing it. And she finally hit a point where she was just like, I want a regular 9-to-5 job. And a lot of YouTubers have left to pursue other things. But her thing was, she said, And this, I think, is going to rub some people the wrong way. And I don't fully agree with what she's saying. But basically, she was saying, you think that people that are like, let's take influencers, you think that influencers are free because they've got their own boss, they make their own hours. And while all of that is true, she was saying we're not, though, because we have to grapple with the idea that, the more we post, the more money we might make, and the less we post, the less money. So we are totally in control of how much money we're making obviously to a certain extent. And so to her, she felt like she could never get away from sharing so much of her life. And that was the only way she could make a living at the time. And so it freaked her out. It made her feel like she was a prisoner in her own life, and obviously we all do this to ourselves. Like, I have chosen this path for myself, but I found that viewpoint fascinating. Like I said, I don't know that I totally agree with it. And I think it's maybe because I have taken a healthier turn with this, and I do have my own boundaries when it comes to how much I film and putting the phone or camera down a lot more often than I have it up, But I can see her viewpoint. So she did. She quit. She's got a 9-to-5 job, I think, at like a PR firm or something, and more power to her. But you do see a lot of YouTubers leaving the space. And not even just YouTubers, Instagrammers, TikTokers, whatever. And I can understand why. I think if you don't have certain lines and boundaries and it all gets mixed up, it can get almost so confusing and so enveloping in your life that it's hard to separate like real life from what you're filming. Not that what they're filming isn't their real life, but like I've said a million times, things in my life might look perfectly rosy because I'm not picking up the camera when Tyler and I are arguing about something or Genevieve's throwing a tantrum. Why would I pick up the phone and film that? So, wow, I don't even know the original question I was answering. You guys just let me go on a big old tangent. How dare. But it was an interesting article. I can link it below if you want to read it. I found it fascinating. I was using the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift for mascara, and then my liner is not a favorite. I'm just trying to remind myself of how I like it. The Charlotte Tilbury like dual-sided liner. It's not bad, but it's just not up there for me. But then the eyeshadow, I do still really like. This is the CoverGirl Clean Color Little Quad in Dreamy Pink. This I am definitely a fan of. I just think it can look really natural and really pretty. And I just use these two shades here. This was the shimmer and this was in the crease. But I do want to do something I've seen, I remember from back in the day, where you just take like a nude or white liner and put it on your waterline. I think it's really pretty. I haven't done that in a long time. The more nude color, if you're near my skin tone, is just a little bit less stark. So it's still evident, but it's not like, the white can look pretty on some people, but it's just maybe a little bit too much for me. So that worked pretty well, actually. So I got the question, what led you all to start back in church? And I've already filmed part of this. We needed to edit it because I'm trying to be choosy about how I word certain things. But I did apply the Tower 28 cream bronzer. So I don't think you would have seen that on camera, but I just absolutely love this. I think it is so pretty. It is so easy to apply. So Tyler and I were brought up in a religion that is a very rule-driven religion. And I think that is the right religion for a lot of people. But for us, we were realizing like we didn't want to go to church. And we didn't agree with a lot of the things that church was teaching. So we basically hit a point where we were like, well, then we just won't go to church. And so we did that for a while. I would kind of go here and there, and I'd take Gigi here and there, and but it was never anything solid and regular. And that bothered me because I am a religious person and I do believe in God and I know I have certain beliefs. So we had a moment, I'm going to try to not get emotional, where we just realized like we really do want something. We want to raise our kids to believe something. And then when they're grown-ups, they can decide for themselves what they believe, what they don't, if they believe in anything. And so we finally found more of like a non-denominational type church. And we've realized that I think that's what's been missing. And even still in our church search, we've realized as we've tried different ones, we're never going to find like one church that's the one. I just don't think, because we're always going to find something that we personally maybe don't agree with or that rubs us the wrong way. But as we tried a lot of different ones, this was kind of where we landed. And it seems to be the fit for us for right now. And it's been great. Like we've been going, Genevieve loves it. She's learning so much stuff about God that she was not learning previously. I know and care way more. This is going to be the part that like really gets me. the thing I struggled with the previous religion was that a lot of the focus was on the rules of the church, and it wasn't necessarily what Jesus taught us. And I really saw a huge gap between what Jesus taught us and what the church, not what they were telling us to do. Like, it's not like they were like, Jesus said, don't murder people, but we're telling you to murder people. That's not what I mean. But those things that you realize when you've been going to the same thing for decades. You know what I mean? So for us, this was the move. And I suddenly am reading the Bible and like interested in it. And Tyler and I are watching documentaries about Jesus that we never would have cared to watch. And I'm like, that's powerful stuff. You know what I mean? Woo, baby. Oh, I wanted to try. I got to hold it together, you guys. So that's something I can talk about in another video. But it's been a very powerful year for us when it comes to that. Very, very powerful. Totally a total shift in our lives for the better. And it's amazing. So one day I will do a video just on that. I do promise you that, but I'm not ready yet. These are happy tears, by the way. All right, Jess, you gotta get it together. I also wanted to try a little bit of this bronzer from ColourPop. This is Summerland Beach. I just wanted to kind of tap it on top because it's a shade I've not used. I like the formula of the blush from this line, so I was just gonna throw a little on and just see. I like taking a powder bronzer and topping cream bronzer. Anyway, so to finish that conversation off without tears, I think if you are finding that you do believe in, let's say, I mean, I'm taking Christianity because that's what I know, you guys. This is for anyone. If you find that you are not caring about going to church or like learning about all that or whatever, you might try a different church or a different denomination or a different something or other, because I just think we all deserve, I want you all to feel the way that I have been feeling in my heart. Okay, don't you know more tears? Okay. It wouldn't be a coffee chat with me if we didn't cry at least once. It's never about the same thing. I keep you on your toes. Can you talk more about feeding Felicity solids? Thank you. I've learned a lot from you. That's awesome. Honestly, y'all, I just didn't follow a rule book. I think that was the key. I started looking into things and it was all so overwhelming. And when you have another kid you're feeding too, it's like, it's too much. So I wish I would have done this with Genevieve, but you don't know what you don't know, you know? Just said no like 100 times. We basically just started with like small things like, you know, baby food packets or whatever, baby food jars, whatever. But then we eventually pivoted into giving her little bits of things we knew she probably could gum down, you know, like taking a slice of cheese and ripping it up or, you know, things like that. Banana, well, actually we started with bananas, scrambled eggs. Like those are the two classics. But then as she got more and more comfortable with kind of the idea of chewing and swallowing, we'd give her still tiny bits. And honestly, we still cut the pieces pretty small. We're probably at the point where we can get them a little bit bigger, but I'm just such a worrywart with choking that I just don't mess around with it. Anyway, so we just slowly started trying other things. I found this free PDF that was actually really helpful. Tyler loved it too, where we just printed it out and just had it in our kitchen. It was like baby's first 100 foods. So we would just see things on there. I'd try to get some of them at the store, try 1 or 2 with her a week and just kind of make sure she didn't have any reaction. But that was great because it kind of gave us guidance in like, what can we feed her? You know what I mean? And then once we'd exhausted most of that, we didn't do all of them, but once we'd exhausted most of that, we started getting into like, okay, what are we eating for dinner? Can we cut it small for her? You know, if it's spaghetti with red sauce. And now we're pretty much at the point where she can just eat whatever we're eating if we can cut it up small. Yeah, and it's great. So then the other like baby-like foods that we have, like packets and puffs and things like that, we can still give her, but they're more an addition to just the regular food we're trying to give her on a daily basis. So it's worked out really well. We are still weaning her off of formula and onto milk now that she's 1, onto cow's milk. So that's happening. We're just trying to use up the formula we have. But yeah, I think if you're someone that likes rules and having everything set up for you day by day, those exist. You 100%, I know, like a good friend of mine did that and thrived with it. And I think that's awesome. I think it's just more of a personality thing. But for me, I wanted that little bit of guidance of like, what are some ideas for food on that PDF? And we would like check them off as we tried them. And then we moved on. This is such an interesting question. Advice on Midwest living. I feel like, you know, you hear a lot about people that are living in big cities or in destination type places. But I think there is so much fun to be had in places that are, you know, like this is the Midwest, but like anyone that lives in a place that's not necessarily a big city or whatever. I feel like it's easy to forget that there's so much to do wherever you live. And if you actually take 5 to 10 minutes to look into what's going on around you. Like, what events are this month? I feel like when you become a parent, a lot of times you do this naturally because you're like looking for things to do with your kids. But if you're not, what an even better time to look into like what events are going on in my town or a neighboring town. Because think about it. When you travel, Tyler and I have talked a lot about this. When you travel, you do that all the time. You look into like, what are some cool things to do? What are some cool restaurants? What are events that are going on or museums to go to? But in your own hometown, we don't do that, do we? Like, we really don't take the time to like research. Like, there are plenty of things, even still here in mid-central Indiana, I don't know why I couldn't think of that I still haven't tried, that are things that if someone were visiting here, they would have already done. So just remembering that wherever you live, not just the Midwest, but wherever you live, take the time to look into what events. Sign up for, there's a lot of like email, like newsletters you can sign up for that will come to your inbox weekly or daily that will tell you everything going on. And it's so cool. There's so many different ideas we've gotten from the one that we signed up from. Like, it'll tell us, oh, a new restaurant opened or this new coffee shop open. There's this festival going on downtown on Saturday. So definitely just do some digging into your own place that you live, because I think you're going to be surprised by how many things are going on, you know. Now, I'm saying this, I know some of y'all live in a very small town where there's not, but look at neighboring towns. You know, even if you're driving 45 minutes, it might be something that's worth, you know, driving for. I don't know if I truly answered your question there, but that was just kind of what popped into my mind. Are your Disney trips going to slow down when Genevieve starts kindergarten? So we go to Disney like 2 or 3 times a year. It's never the same twice. I mean, obviously things have been different, but trying this got really weird on the sponge. The Milani Cheek Kiss Liquid Blush Highlight. I just wanted to kind of tap it on top. We would just be more strategic about when we go. You know, there's always the fall break and the spring break and the winter break and the summer break. So I think we would just be more strategic. Right now, we're able to live and be a little more spontaneous and say, hey, you know what? There are some cheap rates, some cheap rooms, or cheap, please. But you know what I mean? There's a discount on rooms at next month. Do we want to try to go to Disney with the girls? So that's how we're living now. We'll just have to be more strategic and plan things a little more ahead of time. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to slow down. I always like to reiterate, if you're someone watching me and you're like, Jessica goes to Disney like 3 times a year, my husband owns a Disney travel agency, and that's why. I mean, there's literally, we're going here very soon. We're probably already there by the time you're watching this. We might even already be back by the time you're watching this. But new rides open, new restaurants open that we need to know about. We need to have experienced. Like, how can he possibly own a Disney travel agency and not actually know how things work, what things are like, have tried those, have ridden the rides? Anyway, I know I'm over-explaining for most of you guys, but we still get that from time to time, and we just take it with a grain of salt because it just is what it is. But the new Tron ride has opened. The new Woody's Roundup barbecue place opened in Hollywood Studios. There's like 1 or 2 other things we're excited to try for the first time. Fantasmic is back. Happily Ever After is back. So we've got lots of fun things we're doing on this trip, but we love it. You guys know that. And on that note, and this will be the last Disney thing, have you done or interested in run Disney races? I signed up for one. I flew down. Tyler had already been down there. He was doing like the 4 races in a row thing. And I can't think of what it's called. And the day I got in, the next day was going to be the half marathon that I was running. And there was such a bad storm, they canceled it. And so I'd flown down for 2 days for no reason. I mean, I still got to hang out with Tyler and I cheered him on for the marathon, but it was still while I was teaching too. So I like flew down Friday night after school, was there Saturday for what was going to be the half marathon, and then went home on Sunday. It was a lot. Are you going to any of Taylor Swift's concerts? No. I even looked into tickets the other day, I'm like, maybe, no. They're so expensive, you guys. I'm like, no, but maybe. No. Who is my celebrity crush? I have a few. Tyler knows of them, so it's not, you know. I totally have a crush on Zachary Levi, as in from both Shazam and in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I get this question a lot. Which was harder, 0 to 1 or 1 to 2? 0 to 1 was so much harder. Your life is totally different. I mean, you're literally trading in your old life for a new one. But then once you add another kid to the mix, a lot of those Band-Aids have been ripped off. So it's still hard, but it's not like you're totally rewriting your life story. So 0 to 1 was a million times harder. Do you find it difficult to set boundaries with family, friends, and work? This is a big thing I've been doing lately, is setting exactly that, boundaries. And every time I'd heard, like over the years, people would talk about like boundaries, I would, if I'm being honest, I would kind of roll my eyes because I'm like, okay, yeah, we get it. Like, you don't want people to walk all over you. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I would roll my eyes, but it always just felt like something that was not a problem I had, you know? Well, stupid young Jessie. That is totally a problem I had. And I have realized if you are someone that is a people pleaser, you probably have issues with setting boundaries for yourself. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, they just go hand in hand. But because I am a chronic people pleaser and I am trying to recover from it, it's just one of those things that I do have to be conscious of. Like, you know what? I need to set a boundary here because I feel like they're about to walk all over me, or that they are walking all over me, whether it's business or in like your own regular outside of work life. Happens a lot at work though, doesn't it? You know? All right, had to let my camera cool down there for a minute. So you guys are just lovely. I've gotten so many sweet messages in response to this that are just kind. And thank you guys so much. Like, the internet is full of a lot of people. We're all a part of it. And there's a lot of ugliness. And I just feel really lucky to have so many of you guys that are just nice. And you even think to just like write something nice. Like, you didn't have a question. You just said something nice to me that brightened my day. So thank you. Ooh, I love this. So R0, who they're our editors slash friends slash YouTubers that I regularly watch. That's what started it all. Anyway, asked, do you have a dream spot? A place to goal set, reset your creative brain, and dream? Yes. And it's funny, I initially, when I just read that, I was like, no, I really don't. Like, I should find one. And I realized I actually do. It's our backyard. I love just sitting back there. I mean, today is a gorgeous day, but like even on a crummy day, just sitting back there, there's a certain step I always sit on, and Gigi always calls it mommy spot, that I like to sit on, and I just look out, and I don't have my phone with me. I just sit and I think and I take in. And I feel like a lot of times when I'm realizing I'm having an off day, I'll catch myself just scrolling on Instagram or scrolling on whatever. And I'm like, Jessica, stop. This is why you're feeling off. You're not prioritizing how to use your time well that day. And so usually if I put my phone away and go sit there for a little bit, it kind of recenters me. And I don't know. I'm so glad I remembered that, because that is definitely something now in the winter gets a little trickier, but generally just our backyard is definitely a spot where I'll just zone out and listen to the birds and kind of think. I don't know that I necessarily like goal set there. So it makes me want to think about like, do I have another spot I could go to do that and it kind of be a thing for me? You know what I mean? I love that question. What a unique question. Thanks, guys. How to stay connected with Hub in the thick of raising little kids. So tired. Yesterday, Tyler came in the room and we'd just gotten back. We went on a really long walk with the kids and we got back. We got the girls to bed. And at some point, I barely remember doing this. I was so tired. I laid down, face down in our bed, and I fell asleep. And like 30 minutes later, Tyler comes in and wakes me up and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even remember coming in to fall asleep. That's how tired I was. So no, I feel that. I think if it's already in your mind that you need to be intentional about connecting with them, you will. I think the problem lies in when neither of you guys are even realizing that you haven't connected in a while. And that connected, of course, can mean a million different things. But there are times where Tyler and I will be talking and he'll look at me and be like, hi, I feel like I haven't like seen you in days. And I know what he means. It's like that level where all of your conversations are centered around the kids or your schedule or whatever. And none of it is like actually like talking to each other. And so that has been kind of helpful in recognizing it. And anytime either of us do that, where we'll say, also, hi, I feel like I haven't seen you in a few days, that's almost like hitting the reset button to remind us like we need to be intentional about like having real conversations with each other and spending that time. Usually when I want to reconnect, I'm like, hey, let's play a game. I love games. Anyway, that's all we're going to chat about. This video is long, as all of my videos always are. Also, my hair is lighter. I don't know. I'm assuming you notice it's also like a day dirty, so we're just dealing with it. But I really like it. I told her, she was asking, do you want, and this is a new world to me, okay? But she was like, do you want some low lights or do you want it to be a little bit lighter? I'm like, actually, let's go lighter, baby. And we did. And I really, really like it. So I'm so happy we did that. Anyway, yeah, I love you guys. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I've got my Coffee Chats playlist, of course, if you want to peek around in there, see if you missed one here or there. I feel like YouTube can be a little bit weird with that kind of thing, and you'll randomly like miss uploads. Also, real fast, what I put on my lips is the Rare Beauty Tinted Lip Oil. It's okay. I don't think it's like revolutionary. It kind of makes my lips look a little bit weird and lined. So I don't know that I would recommend, like, I don't hate it. It's just okay. It's just okay. So the shade I have, if you're curious, is Hope. I just think there's probably better out there. You guys know, I love the NYX Fat Oil Lip, whatever oil. I never know what it's called. That stuff is awesome. And also so is the NYX This Is Juice gloss. That stuff is amazing. So I would recommend those over this. Similar vibe, but cheaper and I think better. But I think I mostly mentioned everything else I used. Oh, the under eye powder I put on was the No. 7 Lift Illuminate. I don't even know if they still sell this. If they do, snatch it up. It is the best, well, one of the best under eye setting powders. I love it so much, but I think they may not be selling it anymore. And then for my cheeks, by the way, I used the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Beauty Blush Wand in Pillow Talk. This is that shade that I haven't been totally sure about. I do think it looks really nice today, but I'm still using. I almost did this for my eyeshadow. I kind of wish I had. I want to try this on my eyes, just as like a smudgy, mauvey pink color. I think that could look so pretty. But I haven't tried this formula on the eyes. I should probably make sure it's eye safe as well. So anyway, that's all. I love you guys. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.